Cross-talking sanctions, I'm joined by my guest, Jim Rogers in Singapore. He's an international investor and author. Jim, let me go to you first here. Is the Biden administration attempting to sanction or secondary sanction half the world economy? Because that's what it looks like to me. Go ahead.
Well, many politicians all over the world and bureaucrats love sanctions, Peter. I have written about it and broadcast about it. They really don't work, other than maybe for a short period of time against a few people. I know of no, if any, cases where sanctions have worked.
Jim, jump in. Go ahead.
I just want to say, you know, the Russians have also imposed sanctions. We're talking like only the West. No, but the Russians have also imposed sanctions. They're not going to work either. There are academic studies which show, I haven't read them, but I've read about them, academic studies which show that sanctions do not work. Politicians like them for PR, for publicity. They say, look, we did it, we did it, we did it. But then a week later, everybody's forgotten about it, including the sanctions, and the market always finds a way to get around sanctions.
Okay, but Jim, that cannot be good for Western financial institutions seeing Russia default. Go ahead, Jim, in Singapore.
Well, I really want to go back to what we said before about what, you know, America is shooting itself in the foot as far as the U.S. dollar is concerned. The U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency and medium of exchange, but the world's medium of exchange is supposed to be neutral. You can use it for anything. Pay your girlfriend, buy a boat, do anything you want. That's what it's supposed to be. But now the U.S. is changing the rules, and they're making it, you know, if we don't like you, we put sanctions on you, and you cannot use U.S. dollars. Well, that's making a lot of people say, well, wait a minute. Even friends say, wait a minute, we got to find something else. There's already a move by China, Russia, India, Brazil, Iran, and other countries to come up with an alternative. This is only accelerating. I don't like saying this, Peter. I'm an American. But this is accelerating the move away from the U.S. dollar as the world's medium of exchange.
It's such an excellent question. What is the future of the petrodollar? I mean, we've gotten so wedded to it. Are we seeing its final gasps? Go ahead.
Well, Peter, just recently, the Chinese said to other people, to Saudi Arabia, listen, we're going to pay you in renminbi. So, and the Saudis said, okay, we'll take renminbi. You know, the Saudis have been a great friend of the Americans with lots and lots of dollars, euro dollars, petrodollars, all kinds of dollars. But now the Chinese have said to the Saudis, America's great friend, let's trade in renminbi. I didn't say it, they said it.
Well, what is the implications of that, Jim?
Again, it's more and more, it's an accelerated move away from the U.S. dollar. Again, I'm American, Peter. I don't like seeing this, but I can see that America's making a grave mistake with its, quote, sanctions to hit people again. And it's hurting us. It's going to hurt me and my children more than it's going to hurt America.
Okay, Jim, I see you wanting to jump in. Go ahead real quick. Go ahead.
You know, we're talking about sanctions. To repeat what I said before, the market always finds a way around sanctions. I remember 40 years ago, I met a guy and I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a sanctions buster. I said, what? And with great glee, he explained to me whenever somebody puts on sanctions, he and his guys get together and figure out a way to bust the sanctions. I mean, they've never worked. They're good publicity for a few days, but in the end, the market finds a way. I mean, Peter, I've traveled around the world many times, as you know, and I cannot tell you how many times I've run into sanctions busters and black markets and everything else. The market is smarter than bureaucrats.
Okay, so Jim, what does that mean for Western economies? Okay, I mean, as we've heard on this program twice already, the East has figured it out, you know, in having a credible currency. Again, it goes back to the petrodollar and the financialization of the economy. What is the future of the Western economies?
Peter, you're not old enough to remember, but the pound sterling lost its status as the world's reserve currency, and England went down the tube. It even went bankrupt, literally bankrupt in 1976.
That's
I mean,
right.
the world's had many reserve currencies throughout history. None have lasted more than 100, 150 years. Now the U.S. is forcing itself, us, off the U.S. dollar standard, and the world's going to have to find something else. And when you lose that status, Peter, as England found out, you lose a huge amount of prosperity, privileges, etc. It doesn't happen overnight, but anybody who is young today is going to see dire consequences, just as the English lost many privileges and status after they started losing that step.
Jim, you wanted to jump in real quick before I go to Pi in Los Angeles.
I just quickly want to say, since this is a show about sanctions, these sanctions, Russia's and America's, are pushing more and more Asian countries together. Get out of globe, Peter. You push 3 billion with a B, people together. That's going to have a powerful effect on all of us down the road. And that's one of the things that the sanctions are doing. Another reason sanctions should be done away with, always, throughout history.